Yeah, started, and I think we are live.
All right. Let me just have a quick check regarding the same Indian racing. Yeah, Spa Francorchamps. And let's do a quick audio check. Say something.
Hello, one, two, three. Are we good to go?
Yes, we are very much audible. I will very quickly copy the link onto Discord. We go
All
and
right, fantastic.
paste.
So,
Hello, everyone.
yep,
Just
we have one viewer
lovely.
joining in. So, hello
That
and
is probably
welcome.
me.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Welcome
Yeah.
to the Indian Racing League Chip Schema Season 10. And we are on round two for a sprint weekend around Spa Francorchamps. And coming in, joining in the comms box after a long time is me, Easy Level Bot, trying to give company to our legendary veteran Chip Schema as always. But Chips, we are in a wet session here for qualifying. We saw a lot of changing conditions in real life. Are we going to see that again?
I do hope so. We're fresh off the bat from what has been one of the best quali sessions I've seen in a while. Uh, and yeah, especially at Spa. Spa is a track which I really love to drive around, even if my results may not show the same across league racing. I really, really love to drive around Spa. And before I forget, I would like to start this stream where the previous D2 streams, D1 stream started by saying Minasan konnichiwa to everybody joining in tonight. And we are actually not that far from. We've seen weather like this at Japan very often, so yeah, I think
Yep,
Japanese was the appropriate language to start this one. Chinese for the previous one. With
indeed,
that,
you
let's
can
carry on
translate.
with the yeah.
Yep, you can
Yeah,
translate for the unawares like me as to what that means. I would assume that's a
welcome
welcome or
everyone.
a hello. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
welcome everyone.
Indeed, fairly an easy one. But yes, another,
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, I would definitely resonate to that track that I really enjoy driving as much as I lack the pace, especially in this game as well. And also, but I do enjoy commentating on this track, a track that provides for healthy action, a lot of overtaking, and also changing weather conditions. So let's see what the remainder of qualifying has, and also the race. We have a sprint weekend, so we've got two versions of a race tonight. As Shrikant Das sets in the first time with a 153.9. So, what do you think
and
the
his
pole
teammate
time is good?
boxes.
And
Yeah,
what do you
sorry.
think it's going to be the pole time?
Poll, I think. Do you expect the conditions to improve by the end of the quali
Uh,
session?
I think it's more or less. Oh, we have a driver on. Okay, he's still in the pits, Mayank. But I think it's just going to remain the same. That's probably my hunch. And assuming it stays the
Yep.
same, what kind of lap times do you think we're going to see on the board? As
I would expect some level of track evolution. So I would expect a lap between the 151s and 52s to be the pole position.
oh,
That is quite a bit of track evolution. That is almost 2 seconds faster than what the current provisional pole time is. But I do feel like the drivers have what it takes in them to uh, do so. And as I say that, SSN having a bit of a moment through Radion onto the Camel Straight. People are setting lap times in quick succession. I think there is Spandan who had a bit of a moment there in validation, and yeah. So, drivers taking the appropriate line through the last corner there. As you can see, they go in a bit wider, take a wider exit from the corner, final corner, and start their lap. So that gives them a bit more straight line speed into turn one.
and while
So if you're
talking
following, feel
about
free to let me
final
know.
corner, yep, I
Yeah,
am following Seven, who's about to finish a lap, and he goes
P5.
P5. And let's pick a driver who's going to start a lap. I believe Harsh has just come out of the pits, so that's a long way around for him. So is
I
there's a
think
Ferrari,
Spandan.
slow
We can
moving
follow
Ferrari.
Spandan.
Alright, so why don't you take us away with his lap?
All right, right. I'll do my best to remember the corner names to the best of my abilities. Spandan taking Lecom chicane in the McLaren. He's sector 1 time was, I believe, 31 point something. Through Malmedy he goes into Brussels. Let's see his line through Brussels. It's very crucial that you don't stray too wide, but he is invalidated, so maybe we
Yep.
can switch over to somebody else.
Yep, he
Yeah.
has. It really looked like
Right
that
behind him,
is the
AKQJ on the lap.
Ferrari.
In the Alpine in 15 right now, AKQJ.
Oh,
You
P15.
on board with him?
Yep, I am. And all yours, Chips.
Super conservative with the throttle there, and he is not using any battery. All right, so I think the drivers know who we switch over to, and they just purposely don't do a lap because of that. So, and AKQJ has, yeah, he's not using any battery. This is not going to be a very representative time. Let's have a look at Abhi, who has drifted his way out of the bus stop chicane and onto the main straight he goes. That is still faster than Manan somehow. Manan, speaking of whom is improving, up to the line comes Manan and he goes up to P5. He had a bit of a drift in the last corner there. He can definitely go a few tenths faster than that.
Yep, definitely a lot of
We
time
have
for
Deadly
all
Mosquito.
his drivers.
Alright, Deadly Mosquito. Finally, we get a driver who is on a lap and has just started it. So, through goes Deadly Mosquito, up Oruj and into Radion, and a bit of a slide there, taking the Camel kink onto the Camel straight. It's a bit of an uphill section. This you don't usually see. You don't see the degree of the rise in the straight, but nonetheless, he is still just about 2.5 tenths off on the in sector 1 through Lecom and through Malmedy. A bit conservative with his throttle inputs there, but still. Now into Brussels, let's have a look at his lines. He goes a bit too deep into the corner, but I think he's still going to make it without too many difficulties. Into Speaker's Corner, I believe. I just learned the names a few minutes before we started this stream. Into what we famously call Puhan, but what the image that I read is called Double Gosh. Taking it pretty neat, staying away from that auto spin curve, which has been very deadly. And we have Manan who's retired from the session, but we shall focus on Deadly Mosquito as he goes through Fania in towards campus. Let's have a look. This is the end of sector 2. It has to be a nice run into sector 3 for him, and as he ends sector 2, it's 5 tenths up on his time through Stavelo, approaching, I think this is cover Paul Frere, just before the fast left-hander of Blanchimont. Deadly Mosquito, let's see if he lifts through Blanchimont. I don't think he needs to, will he? He does not. Throttle pinned to the floor as he goes up to bus stop. No traffic ahead of him. When will he choose to brake? He brakes at an appropriate time, but he overshoots his braking. But I think he's locked up a slight bit there. Exiting bus stop with a nice exit there, but I think his entry was compromised. This is gonna get him
Stays, he stays P5. Yep, but he did improve by half a second on that time. Meanwhile, Manan also retiring, and there's another yellow flag at turn 1, probably cars slowing down. So interesting lap times, 2:10 separating the front row. Expect that to also displace a bit, as just I said that, and Harsh in the other Ferrari goes almost 6.5 tenths clear of his teammates. So that is a brilliant lap time set in by Harsh.
Yeah, I think my prediction was a bit more suited for D1 than D2, I feel, at this point. But yeah, I think somebody we should be on the lookout for is Raman. Raman's been very rapid throughout this game. I've raced him not that much, but I've raced him a fair bit in social races and whatnot, and he's been very rapid. And I feel like Raman could be challenging for top 4, the top, spot in the top 4. Yeah. So as he comes up to the end of sector 2, do you think, why don't you take us to the remainder of the lap with Raman?
Alright, so just finishing, coming up to start the final sector. It's more or less a flat out section of the track. Let's see if he has some kind of liftoff in this condition, but as you said, Chips, there is a lot of track evolving, as now he comes up close to the bus stop chicane, just loses a car just a tad bit there, braking early in this wet track, taking it fairly neat, hitting both the apexes fairly cleanly. Now run to the final start finish straight, goes P4, a second adrift from the pole time, but still, as you predicted, Chips, he's right there in the top 5.
Yeah, that is a pretty neat lap from Raman there. I think he can go slightly faster. Maybe he has some extra fuel on board. All right, yeah. Before if you can go over to Shooter, let's focus on him. He's up by a second, almost at 1.5 seconds. Shooter's on a roll. While we wait for him to finish his lap, I want to ask you: would you, in these conditions, repeatedly change tires, or would you stay out on one set of tires which are scrubbed and have some more grip and some more temperature in them and go on with a heavy fuel load? What would you do?
I think I'm more of a lighter fuel load and just fresh tire person, so not that's the kind of choices I make.
All
But
right. Yeah.
qualifying is not the best of my things. That's why one of the reasons why I generally avoid doing quali laps as well. But nonetheless, that being said, Shooter has definitely displaced Harsh, and he is definitely, I think he is the first driver to come into the 152s, I believe. So
Yes, he is.
definitely a lot of
Pretty
pace there in the front.
mighty good lap by
Oh,
him. And
and
Pratham is
Pratham.
out.
Yup, he
That's a
has. I think.
Haas going through the that portion. Who is the Haas? We can probably follow. And that's Nishan, and Pratham's binned it just before the finish line. So that's going to be. Oh no! Malav completely. You can beat me completely missing the last turn, and he has ruined his attempt and his next attempt in the process.
Yep,
Oh
he has.
no!
But probably plenty of time for him to come back again. 4.5 minutes left
I think
in this
he's gonna
session.
choose staying out.
But
I think he's gonna
but
choose to stay out.
alright, but the rain has pretty much gone off. But I don't think the track might evolve as much for slick running, because I do see Harsh in the pits thinking about a set of softs, and so might be Deadly Mosquito, but you never
Ah.
know what happens.
I think it's a bit too early for soft tires. Won't you say? The track is
Yep,
still pretty damp. I mean, we're
it
not
is.
seeing incredible amounts of spray, but I still think it's a fair ways of softs at the moment.
Yep, meanwhile, Shooter probably coming back or giving a decent amount of tow to the Alpine, is that? The car behind?
Yeah, that is an Alpine, and that is AKQJ, who is about to start his lap, I believe, because he's not using any battery and he overshoots the turn, but I think he's going for the wild line. I
Back,
know he's coming into the pits. So
back
I
into the
think what
pit.
you said is probably right. The drivers, see, I can see the raindrops dissipating and disappearing. So maybe the drivers are considering a switch over to the slick tires. That would mean a lot of back off in the final runs, as we saw. I think in Q2 was it? Yeah, it was in Q2. I expect to see a fair bit of back off if we have to switch over to slick tires. But yeah, given the current track conditions, I'd still say it's hit or miss. It's anybody's game from here.
Yep,
If you
it is
mistime
as.
your switch to yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Nishan just crossing his line. He
Okay.
goes P5, so good lap time set in by Nishan as well. But yep, as you were saying, I think hit or miss, or high risk or high reward, right? That's the kind of situation drivers might
Yeah.
find themselves in. And they've just got 30 seconds to probably make that decision. It's a long way, the outlap around Spa, probably the longest track on the calendar.
Yeah, it is
Mm,
7 kilometers, 7.004 kilometers. Yeah, now I just wanted to point out that drivers who are currently out on the track on the inters, that's qualifying for them, they have to commit to that tire. As I see Mayank improving by about 5 tenths of a second. So maybe you can be on board with him while I just describe the situation before I lose my train of thought.
all right.
This is very reminiscent of Turkey 2020, I believe, wherein either compound is faster. It's just a matter of which driver can extract the most out of their car. So I think the softs are going to provide grip, but the track is still pretty damp, and I think the game is an improvement from F1 22, wherein the track doesn't just dry up magically within like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. We will see a fair bit of running to have the track properly dry out, and we see Nishan, somebody getting out of the way there. That's an Alpha Tauri. I don't know who that is, but I'm going to go back to Mayank here. Mayank approaching the end of sector 2, going through Stavilo. He's 1.1 seconds up on his time. That would, at this point, get him, I think it would get him around Harsh. But there's an Alpha Tauri ahead of Mayank. Is that going to be a deterrent to him? The Alpha Tauri moves out of the way and goes onto the grass there. That's not the most ideal way to get out of the way. But Mayank coming up to the line. Nishan ahead of him. He is going into the box. Mayank is committing to the intermediate strategy. But what is this going to net him? Comes up to the line. Mayank in the Alfa Romeo. It is P2 just
E2.
ahead of Harsh by 3 tenths. Very close. Harsh himself is starting a lap. So Harsh also on the inters. So nobody. And what?
Nishan has retired
Deadly
from the
Mosquito.
session. Has he?
Deadly Mosquito got a penalty for a collision with Spandan, and Nishan is out. So quite a bit of chaos going on in these final stages. And Mosquito out on the
Soft
soft
tires.
tires, and he is struggling. Right behind him is his teammate, both of whom run off track just before Speaker corner. That is Abdul Samad. He is on the inters. Uh, but yeah, so we have at the moment 3 cars out on the soft tires. So who is that? Abhi, Deadly Mosquito, and Spandan. So Abhi, I don't think he's going to enjoy the fruits of this because I don't think they've timed it well. Maybe Spandan could get the benefit of this. He is about to start his lap. He just needs to complete sector 3 as fast as he can. Do you think he can make it to the line in time?
He 15 seconds. I think he
I
has to
don't think
navigate
so.
bus stop. He won't be able to make it
He
to
won't be
the
able to, and
line.
he's running
And
wide.
yeah, and there's a
Eight,
Mercedes right
seven now.
behind him. I
Oh
think that.
no! That Merc has crashed.
Oh,
That's Raman. That's some violent crash for Raman, and the checker flag is out. Spandan cannot get to the line in time. So
okay.
Raman spontaneously combusting. But what about Shooter, our pole sitter? He is improving by 2.5 tenths in sector 1. This could prove crucial. What about Mayank? Mayank a
All
bit further
right.
up the road.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
let's
so
come
sorry.
back. I think it is SSN who is crossing the line. 1.6 seconds up on the time. So next person to cross the line, where does that? He goes
P5.
P5. There's a Ferrari of Harsh.
Harsh.
Two
Yeah,
seconds up on his time at the end of the middle sector. Let's see where he places. Is that pole position coming in for
could be.
Harsh?
It
And that
is.
is 150.6. So your timings are pretty much on point for Division One, Division Two chips. So and Malav also now crossing the line. Where does he see himself? P7 and an Alfa
And
Romeo.
Mayank boxes.
Yup,
Mayank
he
boxes. Oh
he
no!
does.
So that is the end of quali for him. What about Shooter? I did not catch the end of his sector 2 split. So we
He
don't know how much he's up by. Let's just switch over to Shooter. We also have AKQJ coming up to the line and a Merc coming up to the line. We'll switch to them in a bit. Let's focus on Shooter, the man currently in P2. Can he improve? We have somebody who's just shot of AKQJ up into
QJ
P2.
two.
But what about Shooter? Has to navigate bus stops cleanly. Can he do that? 7 going up into P2. But what about Shooter? Can he displace Harsh right at the death? He
Yes.
can! And he does it. Wow.
Wow,
4
what
tenths.
fantastic timings here.
And
And DRS.
Shrikant goes P2.
Yup,
What
that
about
was a
Domithor?
Ferrari coming just.
Domithor to the line. Now comes the
Oh,
speed more. All right. So there you go. Track evolution played a major role right at the end there. And yeah, they did break into the 150s, very close to the 149s as well. So you can run us through the order.
yup, a shooter with that mega lap of his pole position for him. The two Ferraris right behind him in P2 and P3 with the likes of Shrikant Das and Harsh. Domithor rounding up the second row in the Aston Martin. Meanwhile, FN7 also with a good lap time. AKQJ, Mayank, Ramen, SSN, and You Can Beat Me rounding up the top 10. Meanwhile, Nishan, Pratham, Deadly Mosquito, Abdul Samad, Manan, Abhi, Oxidize, Spandan, and Ace. Spandan and Ace not able to put in any kind of a time, so they start at the back of the grid for the sprint race. It is a long weekend here that we have, so and you never know what kind of weather we have for both these occasions, Chips. So it's this qualifying was, I think this qualifying pretty much replicated what we saw in the real
Oh,
life, and we have a
yep.
dry start to the sprint. So looks like it's going to stay all dry throughout. The sun is shining bright.
And yep. And I think just before we begin, I would like to remind the drivers and spectators formation lap is off. And I think you can take us through the sprint start. I'll take us through the race start. So that
Alrighty.
would, yeah. All right.
Uh,
So as we wait, what do you think the tire strategy is going to be? Mediums or softs? What would you go for?
how many laps do we have? I think I'd still go for the mediums.
It's
The
eight
soft,
laps, right? 8 laps.
yes, probably the medium would be the safest bet some consistent lap times all throughout those 8 laps. Probably the softs might just
Although,
lose out on the
yep,
grid.
if we have
So
safety cars, I don't think the softs are going to be the worst tire to go off of. Somebody
yep.
further back, I would expect to see them on the softs.
Yep,
All right,
alright.
take it.
We do have the 5 lights on the grid as the Aston Martin of Shooter, I think that was on pole. Shooter gets a decent start, where so do the two Ferraris right behind as Shooter fairly cleanly navigating turn one, the two Ferraris following. Meanwhile, positions changing right behind as there are cars, some slipping out as they've now come down to Rouge. Drivers just lining themselves right behind each other. They don't want to take any kind of risks here as the Alfa Romeo of Mayank and 7 was that, I believe, side by side. A lot of drivers right behind, even the two Mercedes looking to change positions. What is going to happen at this? The Mercedes backs out of it. Alpine off. AKQJ runs deep into the corner and there is a yellow flag behind. I'm not sure what happened, but a lot of
Judging mistake.
incidents. Yep, meanwhile, Ramin and Mayank also exchanging positions. Ramin probably diving down the inside of Mayank, was it?
Oh no,
Or
it's Pratap who's been spun around after contact with SSN. Oh no. But yeah, that was
uh,
a very chaotic start, and I think it's not over yet. It's just 1.5 sector into the race, and we already had two drivers spinning. And up ahead, look, Shrikant so close to Shooter, keeping him honest in the Aston Martin, the Ferrari driver. Very good effort by Shrikant there, and he is pretty close. Do you think he can strike a move maybe the next few laps?
he might just, because he does have the pace and he might just be using a lot of battery. Meanwhile, Shooter also would be mindful of him and he knows he can plan his 8 laps ahead, and so do the two Ferraris. They can work it together. Meanwhile, Spandan and SSN going side by side, and I think Spandan making a move through on SSN right there. And meanwhile,
Oh,
oh,
SSN
SSN
so deep. Yeah,
runs.
SSN I think is out for blood with Spandan. But yeah,
Yep,
end
he
of
runs
sector,
deep
end of
into the
lap one.
corner and now is exposed to Nishan, who just takes a peek on the inside, lets SSN know he's there. Meanwhile, as the drivers, rest of the drivers also, contact between Ace and Manan, was it? I think Ace losing a bit of his car there, now getting. Abhi is also right hot behind him. Is there a move? He might just settle himself behind, get good momentum out of up to the top of the Odeon. He does. He looks to make a move on Abhi. Both these drivers on Ace rather. Abhi looking to make a move around on the inside, and that's a successful move through for him. Meanwhile, going back up in front, Shrikant
We
Das
can
is
switch over to
really.
Raman and AKQJ. And so we can do the same for Harsh and Shrikant. So Shrikant struggling a bit, falling into the clutches of his teammate. They should remember that they don't need to have an inter-team battle here. They need to chase after Shooter and pass him and get the best result for the team that they can. They are both on the same strategy. Further back, I just wanted to mention that Oxidaz and SSN now trading places. Oxidaz got past Nishan and now Nishan getting past SSN. So SSN not having a good time at the end of sector 2. He has been passed by Nishan. So the one Red Bull not having a good time, the other one making up 2 places in 1 lap. Let's focus on the top 3. Harsh so close to Shrikant. Shrikant falling out of the clutches. He needs to stay within that critical, crucial 1 second of Shooter. And as we start lap 3, we are going to have DRS, and it is imperative, it is crucial for Shrikant that he stay within DRS range of
Yeah,
Shooter, or
he
he's going to
re-
get eaten up down the camel straight.
and that's probably what is looking likely. He needs to really get a good exit out of turn one, which
Oh,
he does. He does make up a couple of tenths and might just put him in the DRS at the detection point. I think he might just get that DRS,
he does, he
chips.
does. But look at
But
Harsh! Look at Harsh! Down the camel straight, the Ferraris side by side, and Shrikant just can't keep up. The slipstream effect is too powerful in this game. And Harsh moves up ahead of his teammate. Shrikant demoted down to P3. Further back, a few more moves being made. AKQJ and Raman trading places. And further back, I see SSN and You Can Beat Me. So You Can Beat SSN not having a very good time there. Being overtaken by both Haas cars and Nishan back behind the Red Bull. So everyone's out for blood here, it seems. Especially
yeah,
in the midfield.
yep, and it's good to see 3 laps in. These drivers are fairly very close to each other,
Red
and as
flag.
I say, that's just a yellow flag for Ace. He probably
Ace.
Oh, and it's a virtual
and
safety
that's a
car.
VSC. It's a
I
VSC.
I think he probably lost his wing there. He doesn't have a wing.
And that is
Probably
not
the
going to bode
cause.
well for Ace.
Yep, and that might just do well for the Ferraris because now it's all about just managing your delta well and getting a good VSC restart, and that might just put the two Ferraris back in the clutches of Shooter. Meanwhile, Shooter not lacking any kind of pace there, so he would be wary of those two Ferraris, and he's got his teammate also right behind those two Ferraris. So it's an Aston Martin versus Ferrari for the podium positions. It's going to be an interesting one for the next 4 laps. As let's see when the VSC gets out. Probably.
And nobody's boxing. This is one of the shortest pit lanes, and you're halfway into the race. I would have expected somebody to maybe make a last ditch attempt to go onto the soft tires and maybe gain a few places. And Mayank, very feisty, nobody getting a drive through. Thankfully, everybody staying within the delta. But up ahead, look at Harsh. Shooter not has the best of restarts, and down the Camel Straight, Harsh is going to get DRS, and he's going to swallow up Shooter. I think before they get to Lecom, yes, he will, but will he get past comfortably? Shooter still there, but not for long because Harsh is now up into the lead. And Raman getting past Domithor, so Aston Martin falling out of losing positions in succession. First the Aston Martin, then the Aston Martin was trailing, but yeah. Not the best restart for the Aston Martins. Shooter still sticking within touching distance of Harsh, but right behind in touching distance of him is Shrikant, and the
And
yellow
it's
flag
a retirement.
Domithor. Safety car.
Oh,
That's a
that
safety
is
car. That's
a
a full
safety car.
course.
All
And
right.
he's bended just before Speaker's corner, and Domithor, who was looking incredibly promising, is now, well, out of the race. That's it.
Well, yep, and 4 laps in, I'm not sure if we went through the tire choices. We have a few drivers on the set of softs. Meanwhile, this is good news for them. Spandan could probably pounce on few more positions. He does have the pace, and this safety car might just be a blessing for him. But let's see what
Oh no,
and
Oxidize.
Oxidize.
I'll send him an invite, don't worry. You can bounce
Okay.
to the rest of the grid. Yeah.
Yep. So you can beat me also on a set of softs. So let's see what kind of race or sprint he has now. 4 laps. Rest of the 4 laps, 2 of the laps might just be eaten by the safety car. So we'll just have 2 laps of green flag racing. So no DRS. It's all battery, slipstream, and rear wing setup. So that's all in play for all these drivers. So let's see who sees the checkered flag. Meanwhile, Harsh and Shooter for some reason exchanging position. Yeah, he did make a move on Shooter right there. So yep, all's well. No overtaking under safety car, and Oxidized Rage has also joined back. So what do you think your top 3 are going to be like now at the end of the sprint?
Now with their advantage being nullified, I think Shrikant is going to be under threat from Raman. Raman has really been picking up the pieces after qualifying. I don't think it was his best qualifying. He was still right up there, but I don't think it was his best effort. He will want to make amends for it and still chase up the order. I think Raman and Shrikant could give us a nice battle for the final podium place. Up ahead, I expect something similar, although I would say that Harsh might have the upper hand on Shooter at the restart, plainly because I saw him just annihilate those two behind him, Shooter and Shrikant, albeit it was with DRS. So you never know. Shooter might just pull out a surprise result here at the end. I don't think, unless we get the restart on this lap, we're going to have DRS on the last lap. So if there's no DRS, maybe it's going to be a bit harder for those chasing to overtake, but
yeah, I think it's going to be all down to the exit the drivers get out of turn 1 and the momentum they're able to carry up through Rouge, and then eventually battery management, because 2 laps of green flag racing might just mean no DRS for any of these drivers. I guess you're having a late. Are you having a late dinner, Chips?
I thankfully finished my dinner before the race. I know these races can go on a bit long sometimes, so yeah. I do. Oh yeah, that was. I'm having some water. If
All right.
that's if the disturbance you heard, yeah, that's why.
Yep.
Wondering what happened there. Yeah. Nah, I'm all good. I want to point out that I'm surprised nobody decided to box. Maybe somebody further back. I was not expecting multiple cars to box. Obviously, Shooter, Raman, Shrikant, then Harsh. I don't expect them to see their position up ahead just to get an advantage. But I would have expected somebody like, say, Abdul or Mayank. Abdul even having a penalty. Let's have a look at that. So, Pratham having a 5-second penalty. I think it was for a collision with the Mosquito, and Abdul obviously exceeding track limits, and the drivers having to almost stop at the last turn, last chicane there, the bus stop chicane. The safety car driving very slowly. I
Cool.
think we need to tell Burn Mylander to speed up, and it is the Aston Martin safety car. And what is happening here between Deadly Mosquito and Abhi? They're trading places, but thankfully it's all good. And now Pratham and Deadly Mosquito get in on the act. And yeah, this is thrown a lifeline for Ace. Ace, if you remember, who lost his front wing just
Yep.
moments before Domathor retired. He has been thrown a lifeline. Fresh softs. He is in last place though. What can he do from 18th?
I think he just needs to be mindful. There might be drivers jostling for positions up ahead. So if he just can keep, I've also raced with Hayes earlier. He tends to keep his nose clean and try to make the most of drivers battling right up front. So if he can make any kind of positions there, Pratham is also fairly has a lot of pace in him, and he looks to make any kind of moves that he can. He goes for that gap wherever that is, or creates one for himself. So he might be eager to make some kinds of moves. So interesting. There might be just a lot of switching of positions right at the back of the field as well. These drivers fairly have a lot of pace in them, and it's Division Two is fairly pretty closed, I believe, in terms of pace. Of course, you have a few outliers as well, but it's fun to watch anyway.
Yes, definitely. I think some of them are pretty close or maybe equal to D1 pace as well. Uh, it's very interesting to see, but I think all in all, I'd say D2 is quite a bit closer than D1 at this point in time. As the season progresses, I expect D1, the D1 field to also close up, myself included in that. Yeah, let's wait and see. We are not talking about D1 here, we're talking about D2 tonight. And
Yeah,
speaking of D2, I think we're gonna have the safety car restart for
right about
yeah,
now.
we're gonna have the safety car restart. So you can do the safety car restart. I shall follow somebody in the midfield because I feel like that is gonna be a bit of a hot spot at this restart.
All right, so we'll be on board with Shooter, who is in a Ferrari sandwich right now, and Ramen and AKQJ also, and Spandan and Mayank. In fact, that let's go. Drivers trying to get the most of it as Harsh and Shooter are fairly a decent distance now. Shooter has caught up to Harsh. So let's see, when does Harsh decide to go? He hasn't gone off yet. It's looking at the exit. He has gone, and that gap is fairly pretty larger than Shooter would have liked. Now he is. It's a fairly pretty neat and clean restart as Harsh has made the most of the gap that he Shooter had left, and that was just easy sailing for him as Shooter is also just Srikandas almost running into the wall there. As let's see what is happening behind. Oh, game please. Oh, the McLaren and the Alpine fairly are pretty close to each other. AKQJ and Spandan the gamer getting a good drive out up on Rio Judge. Even the Aston Martin of Mayank is also coming under attack from the Mercedes of 7. A lot of Spandan the gamer makes a move on a AKQJ goes rather into the inside of that corner in that process. Meanwhile, Mayank also retaining his position. Pratham has retired from the session. Meanwhile, so his eagerness to make positions has just gone him, seen the downside of his race. Meanwhile, Chips, why don't you take over?
Yep, and there's a nice 5 car battle here from Spandan all the way down to Oxidize. Maybe even you can include you can between that as well. And they're so evenly matched. Look, and AKQJ running so deep through that corner, approaching campus. Mayank trying to go for a move, but he can't do so. What about 7? 7 was very feisty, and Oxidize running wide and spinning. That is curtains for his race. and he's dropped it on the penultimate lap. Let's still focus on those behind. It's SSN and Nishan who got very close through, I forgot what corner that is. I think that's cover Paul Frere, and
But
Nishan losing a place to Abdul. And yeah, I heard some extra audio from Bill in the background. Maybe that's something going on. But Nishan so close to Abdul, they make slight contact. Let's focus up ahead. Mayank has been spun. Mayank is out. No, he's not out. Sorry, he's out of contention effectively.
Yup, and he probably also damaged his wing a bit there. Meanwhile, there was a bit of contact between the drivers up ahead as well. I'm not sure who those drivers were, but Seven making a lot of positions at the safety car restart. He now is also attacking AKQJ. 210 separating the two drivers. The Mercedes driver gets a brilliant
Oh,
drive, but he does have
look
the
at that.
overspeed on him, but it's all battery deployment for both these drivers. It is the final lap of the race, and AKQJ holds his position. Meanwhile, side by side go Nishan and the is it the was it the
Alpine
Haas?
of Manan.
Alpine of Maran. Yep. That was the Haas of Nishan and
Right.
Alpine of
Oh, but
Maran.
it's Abdul and SSN who are side by side through Speaker's Corner, approaching the double gauche, and Abdul is passed. So SSN having a broken front wing. Neither Red Bull having a nice, pleasant end to this race. And I just want to speak about that good bit of racing between F17 and AKQJ. So F17 had the slipstream and all the battery, but I think he just didn't have the perfect setup. Maybe he's running a bit too much aero. As we see Nishan and Manan trying to get past SSN. SSN struggling. He is not somebody who's having a good time, and Manan is past. SSN Nishan still behind the Red Bull. And he's struggling to get past, but I think he is gonna get past. Approaching Blanchimont well before Blanchimont. SSN can't make it stick, but up ahead, let's have a look at Raman, who's run so deep in the corner, but it is Harsh who's won the race. But from Shooter, followed by Srikanth, Raman ahead, and AKQJ falling out of the contention. What happened? He's fallen to 8th. He's lost 2 places. And F17 and You Can Beat Me side by side to the line. 33 milliseconds separating the two of them as we end the sprint race. What happened to AKQJ? Right at the death there. Wow.
A lot of
Look at
drivers.
Nishan and Ace!
Oh,
5,000!
thousands. Oh, we just missed that as well. So a lot of very close, and Ace managing to make up a lot of positions there. So good. This was a good safety car restart. That the latter half of the race pretty much paid out for him. Now it's the longer one is still a lot to go. You still have we just had the sprint through points for the top 8, I believe. I'm not very sure, or is it the top 6?
It's a top 8, I think. But regardless of how many points are dished out, top points for the sprint go to Harsh. What a brilliant effort from him.
Indeed, a brilliant safety car restart, catching Shooter napping, and winning the sprint from him. Shooter and Srikanth rounding up the podium positions. Raman, Spandan, seven, and you can beat me with that photo finish, and AKQJ rounding up the points positions for the sprint. Meanwhile, Manan, SSN, Deadly Mosquito, Abdul Samad, Ace, Nishan, Abhi, Mayank, and Oxidize, the rest of the finishers of the race. Pratham and Domithor having a dismal sprint. But not all is lost for these drivers. They still have 22 laps to make some more points. There are a lot still on the table that are for the drivers for the taking. But let's see again, no formation lap, and let's see how these strategies pan out.
I would love to see some weather come into play. Weather's always a very fun factor in the main race. In any race, in any Formula One race, you love to see weather play a part. But yeah, position changes between Shooter and Harsh between the sprint and the race. What do you think? I personally think Harsh can go for it. Shooter's gonna challenge him, but I think Harsh has just shown his prowess in the sprint race, and I think he'll carry it over into the main race as well.
Yep, I think you need to keep an eye out on both these two. They might be just exchanging positions for 22 laps if we have all 22 laps of green flag racing. But yep, it's going to go down to the wire with these drivers. So let's see how that works out. Meanwhile, I think we should be starting very soon. So Chips, you might just catch all the
Yes,
breath that you'd want.
certainly. Whew, yeah, certainly. I am would like to talk about the tires as well. I would expect to see all three tire compounds at the race start, regardless of position. I think somebody in the top 10 is going to go for the hards. That is a bit of a gamble. I think, as much as I would like to see a wet session, it is probably going to be a dry session. To the end, it's just going to go from overcast to sunny. But as we wait for the drivers to ready up, we I think are in for a pretty nice start to the main race. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, a bit of a pause, and it is lights out, and away we go. It's a nice start for Harsh. It's an even start between the top two. They're leaving the field behind for Dust, and Shrikant going down the inside of the Aston Martin and making it stick. That's a brilliant start for Shrikant. Further back, I see an Alpine running very wide there into turn one, taking the Kimi Raikkonen line. But I'm going to focus on F17, who was so feisty in the last lap of the sprint. Can he do the same thing to Spandan as they go down the Camel Straight? Up ahead, look, 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 look. It's four wide, is reminiscent of Spa 2018. And Harsh is being swallowed up here by those around him. And can something happen? Thankfully, nothing does. And everybody stays within touching distance. Shrikant almost rear-ending there. And who's that? Raman. So close. And Raman, is he going to go for a move? I think he thinks better of it. But shoot, he forces Shooter to go a bit deep into that corner. And Shooter's forced wide. And Shooter's lost the position to Raman. What a brilliant start for Raman. There are so many positions being traded further back. But it has been a brilliant start for Harsh. And it's already a VSC. So let's have a look further back. What's happened? I see
Oh,
a car beach
reset.
that is AKQJ was beached on track, so we just saw an amendment in the rule book today regarding beached on track. I think
Uh,
we'll have to make use of
uh,
that.
oh, yep, that might just be because there's and a broken front wing for You Can Beat Me, so probably the cause of the virtual safety car, some contact between the drivers right behind, but yep, hopefully the rule book also says 5 seconds, so hopefully he stayed tried his best for those 5 seconds. But nonetheless, that's for the stewards to find out, and we might just this was we SC probably all the drivers are fairly close to each other. I think not many incidents in the midfield, but a lot of action and a lot of over. Oh,
Oh
Shrikant
no,
Das just
Shrikant! He's completely missed his breaking point and he's lost 2 places. We just, I think, lost track of what to do. Maybe his controller died. I sincerely hope it was his controller, for that is to be one of the most unfortunate places to lose
oh, and
two
a lot of
positions at a
four
moment.
drivers in the
Yeah,
pit. Chip, sorry to cut you
I think
there,
they all have
but
damage.
yep, looks
I think
like
they all
it.
have
I think
damage.
yep, Oxida is getting a wing change.
He is getting a wing change. You Can Beat Me has to get a wing change, and we know AKQJ also does. So all
Me
of them having to change the tires, but softs
Meanwhile,
for Ace and
meanwhile, we
yeah.
are green flag racing. Chips and Ramen has had a, I think, Shooter got a brilliant restart. He's got Ramen. He's got his P2 back, so that's a fantastic restart. And Shooter really is on more charge right now. He really wants to uh, redeem himself for all he can for that poor start, poor 1.5 laps that he has. So keep an eye out on these two. Meanwhile, drivers right behind this.
Ramen, oh no, they're all track extending a bit. I think they're using up their track limit tokens a bit too early, which they shouldn't really be doing. But yeah, great restart for Shooter. I think, provided he can fire his tires up in the proper manner, he should be able to challenge after Harsh. Because look, Raman's keeping him honest, staying within 4 tenths despite being overtaken. That is pretty impressive. Spandan is a bit further back. Seven, he gained a position. He and Spandan both gained a position due to Shrikant's misfortunes, who is now down in P6 as we speak. Further back, it's nicely spaced out, but let's focus on Raman, who I think has been the star of the show last weekend out at Hungary, and he's following suit this weekend at Spa. So as we start lap 3, Shooter gets the fastest lap from Harsh, so I think that just shows maybe that was a bit of a VSA restart as well. yeah, I think we should really consider that to be the fastest lap of all. For the back, Mayank and Abdul are trading places into turn one. Abdul going very deep and Mayank trying for the switchback. Can he do something? We do have DRS, I believe, on this lap. I think we
Yes, we
do.
do.
Yeah, we do. So up ahead, let's focus on Ramen for a moment, just before we switch over to someone further back. I think I'm going to go over to Shrikant and Seven, who are side by side going into Likom chicane, and Seven breaks super late and holds on to his position. That was really good. A lot of position trading and Deadly Mosquitoes wins fun. Thankfully, he's been ghosted. Thankfully, that would have been very disastrous if he would have been ghosted there. But yeah, unfortunate for Mosquito and very fortunate for Domitor, I think. Yeah, after a unfortunate end to the sprint, he is on his charge in the main race, chasing after Abdul Samad, who himself is chasing after SSN. So SSN will be hoping for a much better race than sprint, because it was a pretty unfortunate sprint for him last a few
Meanwhile,
minutes
all
ago.
three all
But
three tire compounds there on the grid, chips. So a few drivers on the softs,
yes,
a couple on the hards, more than uh, a couple rather, and the rest on the
yeah.
mediums. So
So
oh, and
the
meanwhile, the Ferrari and Seven side by side now as they approach bus stop.
is
Shrikant Das is really eager to make a move on Seven. Is this the place? I'm not really sure if this is the place. Both will get the DRS from McLaren up ahead, who is just a tad bit behind. He might just come under a lot of attacks. Pandan might, let's see what happens down. Meanwhile, just going up to Ramen also, both these drivers
is a bit
approaching.
further back.
Yep, he
But yeah, I think
is.
we should focus on Shrikant and Seven. I think if we see Raman's gap diminishing between Raman and Shooter, we'll switch over to them. But look at Seven, the exit he got out of Radion and onto the Camel Straight. I think he's going to go for a move. We have a yellow flag, for a long yellow flag. That could be a safety car, so Seven might want to get his move done. And he does, aided by DRS. Seven having a fair bit of overspeed through Lecom chicane into Malmedy. But yeah, Seven is fast. Now it's on Mercedes 3-4, and Shrikant could not do anything there. Shrikant was way too far back.
That's probably, I think that's his strong point. I think on the track Seven, he's managed to get better momentum, carry more speed through up the hill there, and I think that's been
And look at
working
Spandan.
very well.
Spandan going deep into Shukuan. And Shrikant, what's happening to him? I saw a bit of a snap in turning there. I don't think Shrikant's enjoying his tires at the moment. Maybe they're overheating a bit too much. Unsure, but Spandan, I think, using up the track very leniently. I don't know how he's able to do that without racking up penalties, track limit penalties. I don't think you were there for last season's race, right, Spa, because Spandan was using the every bit of track and disregarding every track limit he could last time out when we visited Spa. But on this occasion, he is behind Seven, coming very close at the bus stop chicane. The battle for P4 is intense, and Seven, I think, is going to be a bit of a sitting duck in on the Camel Straight with DRS, because Spandan is keeping him honest. Into turn one, we go source. Shrikant coming so close to making contact.
Yeah,
But
but we've seen
and
Seven to get good drives down to the set of corners. Let's see what happens this time around. 3 tenths is the
and
gap
Seven does
between.
not.
This time he
Seven actually loses a
doesn't.
bit of time and is going to be straightforward for Spandan, who is going to deploy battery and DRS, and Shrikant's going to follow suit as we go approach Lecombe, end of sector 1. Both cars get past 7, so that has not been the best first sector for 7, who's now
Meanwhile,
fallen down 2 places.
meanwhile,
Manan and Pratham, so close between the two of them. So Pratham somehow on the hards is keeping up with those around him on the mediums. Pretty impressive, I must say. And I
indeed.
think Pratham started right at the back, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 11 places. He's gone from 18th to 7th. That is mighty impressive from Pratham, who
Indeed.
has
I
really
think
upped
the
his
only,
game.
yeah, the only driver in the double digits when it comes to position gain. So that is quite an impressive drive from him, or impressive first quarter of the race. A long way to go. Meanwhile, Shooter is 2 seconds behind Harsh. So Harsh has fairly opened that gap up.
And I
So
must say, I'm just on board with 7, and he's sliding around through the end of sector 2. So maybe his tires are overheating a bit. Because I don't see any reason for him to be struggling this much. Shrikant closing up to Spandan. Shrikant needs a good exit out of turn one and a nice drive onto the Camel straight to be able to make the move on the McLaren driver. So Ferrari and McLaren, a historic rivalry. We've seen a very, very famous overtake here being made. Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher in Spa 2000,
Oh,
and Spandan having a bit of a twitch there on the exit of turn one,
and so does
approaching Eau
Shrikant.
Rouge. Yeah, and I think that this was a bit of a chain reaction. Shrikant, I think, used a bit of a track limit there, but Shrikant getting a brilliant run out of Radion onto the Camel King and onto the Camel straight. It's a very straightforward move for Shrikant, who yeah, it's no competition for Spandan. With DRS, Shrikant is easily past the McLaren and up into P4. Manan and Pratham, Manan getting back past the McLaren. So I think drivers are using this DRS very effectively. They're using it to propel each other forward, staying within each other's DRS and trying to blast past every occasion they get. Seven, what can he do? Oh no, Spandan running very wide. What is going on with Spandan? How is he able to get away with so many track limits? Once again, look how I see, last maybe F1 22 was a lot more strict with the track limit penalties compared to 23, but yeah, Spandan is just taking track limits optionally. In this case, let's have a look at F1 7 approaching campus. He is much better line through campus and through Stavolo, approaching Curve Paul Frere. I think he might look to make a move on the main straight. Let's have a look at further back Nishan and Pratham. Nishan just 2 tenths behind the McLaren driver. So Nishan is a fair bit clear of the fairways, clear of the next car, Mayank. And as they go towards bus stop chicane, can Nishan make a move? He is gonna go for it, but he's forced onto the curb there. I think he may have lost a bit of momentum, and Pratham also losing a bit of momentum. Crucially though, staying within DRS range. But let's move up ahead. Seven is ghosted. I think he made contact with Spandan maybe, because look at how far back Spandan has fallen from Shrikant. 7 tenths, 8 tenths. That's not the gap you would like. And Seven getting a brilliant exit. I don't think he is close enough to make a move though. What about Spandan? I think it's the same case for him. Let's go back to Nishan, who could make a move on Pratham, but no, Pratham also has DRS and is actually closing on the Alpine of Manan into Lecom chicane. He breaks late, but I think his line was compromised a tad bit there by Manan being on the racing line. A yellow flag for Ace and Oxidize. What's happened there? Oxidize has stopped, he's reversing, and he is taking a very interesting line into the pits.
Oopsie
Look
daisy.
at what you will.
Whoa.
Yeah. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah.
So,
There you go, oxidized and
has
retired.
it.
Alright, so fair enough. Okay. That would have been a very unfair advantage there for oxidized to cut that much of the pit entry, but yeah, he has retired. So we have a first retiree, and if I'm not wrong, the game is gonna make sure his car drives out onto the circuit and retires somewhere around Eau Rouge. If I'm not wrong, around Radion, sorry. And look
Hopeful.
at Seven has fallen further back. Spandan is falling further back. So let's have a look at Manan, Pratham, Nishan, the trio closest on track at the moment, and very close to Manan. Manan, I think, is going to be a bit of a sitting duck down the main straight. But what about the back straight? Nishan with the penalty. I think he could get maybe one of the warnings removed and get his penalty removed because he was forced onto the curbing there the last lap. Pratham into turn one we go. Manan still ahead of the McLaren driver on the medium. What can Manan do? I think it's going to be very close. Manan did not get the best exit out of turn one. Lesource approaching Eau Rouge. Can Manan get a good exit? I don't think Pratham gets a fantastic exit, and
Meanwhile,
he's so close.
Shrikant
And
and
Spandan getting past the Ferrari driver. Pratham getting past the Alpine driver, and Nishan a bit further back. So Manan and Pratham, they're losing quite a bit of time to their driver ahead of them, F17, but they are giving us a brilliant battle in the process here. And speaking of battling Spandan somehow and Shrikant getting a penalty, so I'm not understanding what Spandan's done to track limits because he's track exceeding quite a bit, but somehow he's managing to stay free from a penalty. Shrikant very close to the back of the McLaren and he's struggling. Spandan, look, when on board with Shrikant, I think Spandan's not a battery. And I shouldn't be giving out in battery info. That's not what I'm here to do. And Shrikant chasing after the McLaren. Spandan struggling. Seven looking to join that battle. Nishan looking to join the battle between himself and Manan. Nishan having a massive moment. Thankfully keeping her out of the barriers there. That would have been an enormous and a horrific crash there. Into the bus stop chicane goes Shrikant and Spandan. What can Shrikant do? Can he regain the position he lost? 5 seconds separate P3 and P4. Look at that gap meanwhile. That is pretty crazy. Raman's fallen out of DRS range from Shooter as well. For a brief moment, I think he's back. So we'll switch back to that in a moment. Let's have a look at Shrikant chasing after Spandan. AKQJ with a penalty. Shrikant, what can he do? Going up Eau Rouge and Radion up the hill. He gets a fantabulous exit there. Not a word I use very often. DRS open and it's a straightforward move. Nothing doing for Spandan. Down in P5 now.
Yep, it is. And 7 has also just fallen back a bit, probably just into the tire conservation phase. As You Can Beat Me is probably also. Okay. The AKQJ was getting into. Oh, I think he banged his.
AKQJ hitting the wall and he is trying to. Oh, what? Why is he reversing down the pit lane? What is AKQJ doing?
Oh, I have no clue.
That was. Yeah, something I don't understand is how Codemasters makes games.
And he has retired from
session in the pit lane. All right. So, but I don't understand why his car just reversed down the pit entry. That was. I shall capture that on my end.
Yep. Meanwhile, Shooter, the gap between Shooter and Harsh is also opening up. So I think what Shooter should plan here is probably for an undercut on Harsh, and undercut can be very powerful.
Shooter on battery. While I think Harsh has a comfortable amount of battery, yeah. So,
yep. Oh, as I said.
Other way around. And Shooter pits. Shooter pits, all right.
And I think that is.
Sorry, it's Raman. And Shooter with a penalty. What did he do? Why would you speed? He's 5 seconds clear of the next car. That doesn't mean you have to get a 5-second penalty to show your prowess.
That's his race going from stable to risky. I think he might just lose a few more positions because of that 5 second.
Shrikant is gonna be coming out in a bit of traffic, but I think Shooter's gonna come out just ahead of his teammate Domathor, who I hope for the sake of the team's championship does not attack his teammate. It is gonna be a slow opening lap for Shooter.
Oh, meanwhile you would want to go up. There's contact between the Haas and Alfa Romeo.
Manan and Nishan, and Mayank going for a move. I think Manan lost 2 places there. Nishan getting past Manan. So does Mayank. And Nishan pulling a bit further ahead. Manan being forced onto the curbing there. And yeah, that the midfield battle is really hotting up. Let's have a look at the gap to the leader actually. So Shooter's currently 20.6. He is gaining a slight tad bit of time on Harsh. So if you're Harsh, what do you do? Do you box or do you stay out? Do you react to Shooter's pit stop?
I mean, it's best to cover off that undercut, but right now if Shooter encounters traffic, that might just be good news for him. So it's a tricky place to be in, and Harsh would not be aware of the kind of traffic he might be in. So to cover off that undercut, he might just get into the pits. Looks like he is, and he does look to cover that undercut. What does Raman do?
Raman stays out.
Yep.
And Harsh without a penalty. So crucially, Shooter has the 5 sec to contend with, and also Harsh he might come out just ahead of this train. Look at Shooter having to avoid into bus stop chicane. Nishan and Mayank were so close, and they're all 2 wide, 3 wide, almost 4 wide. Into turn 1 we go Manan with the inside line on the Haas car. Shooter has lost a lot of time, and he's miles behind her.
Yep, and that traffic has
massively.
Yep, traffic has really caught him out.
Nishan sees the position sensibly, so he wants to get the DRS. He will get it regardless, but he's now putting Manan under pressure from Shooter. who I think on fresher tires and with the help of a bit of battery, he makes slight contact, tags the back of the Alpine there. He doesn't need to be taking risks, but he is, although it hasn't paid off for him because he is still behind the Alpine driver and still in P6. He is losing time left, right, and center to Harsh. I think who's now about 4 seconds clear of Shooter. So he's doubled this gap, and Shooter has a penalty. This is dreamland for Harsh. And just look at Shooter. This is unbelievable, and he's going to go for a move at the inside of Puhon, and Manan has to see the position. There's no way he could have kept it on those old medium tires, although he was very close to keep it battling against the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, that
And
was a
for
brilliant
now,
move.
yeah, a great move by Shooter there. And now he's chasing
Ooh,
after Mayank, and they make contact. Does he have damage? That looked like a piece of front wing may have flown off. He's squirming. His front end is squirming. And does he have damage? He
it
is. It is very
looks
odd. I
intact
don't know
though.
what to say.
Yeah.
Ramen in the box. Ramen box. Ramen box. So where is Ramen going to come out in regards to Shooter? I think if it is. Oh no! What's happening here between Pratham cutting the pit entry massively there? He didn't get to the line in time. I think that is going to be forgiven because Harsh was on the inside line. Raman gets out. Where is he going to come out? I think he's going to come out behind Shooter. Yes, he might, but the gap has really come down, and Raman's behind Domithor as well. So those extra laps have not paid off well for him. He has now fallen back. Further back, you see Pratham and Mayank both in the pit lane. Up ahead, Shooter into P2, but with a 5-second penalty and a 3.4 second gap as opposed to a 2 second gap. Ouch.
Yep, that gap
Spandan with
has
the penalty.
increased, and that shoot and that 5 second also not
Domitor.
doing.
Oof. My word, Domitor and Nishan getting so close to spinning each other out. And I must say, somebody we haven't really spoken about much for most of the races, Domitor, who started in 19th, up in 5th right now at the moment. We haven't had any full course safety cars. I think we've had a VSC, right? No, we've had a one safety car, sorry. So Domitor, he is banking for another late safety car because he's showing some very good pace on those old hard tires, and he will try to do the best for his teammate Shooter by holding off the advances of Ramen. Do you think he'll be able to do that effectively?
Yep, it's just a matter of a couple of laps because then shooter might just have the pace. Ramin won't be within the DRS, and shooter can open that gap up of five
And
seconds and
Ramen
secure
going
his
for the
P2.
move
But
already, and
yep,
Domitor
he is.
can't defend it. He just can't. Look at the overspeed the Merc had on the Aston, and he's chasing after Nishan, and they come so close to contact, but thankfully move out of the way. Side by side, they make slight contact into bus of chicane. They do make contact. They make contact again, and Manan and Nishan both box. Nishan coming so close to tapping the pit entry wall, but thankfully staying away from contact. Domithor staying out. Obviously, he's on the hard tires. He's gonna go long and hope for a safety car or
Meanwhile, can he
directly go into the
come back on
box. Yeah.
Ramen? No, I don't think he
Nope, I
can.
don't
That's
think he
nine
can.
tenths.
Nope.
Yep, 9 tenths. But he can get the DRS and just get a bit of pace. So soft tires for a
And
few drivers. Nine
let's
laps
have a
on.
look at Spandan on Shrikant. Spandan getting a brilliant exit on Shri compared to Shrikant down the Camel Straight with DRS. It's a straightforward move. It's a very easy move for Spandan. Although both of them have penalties. Further back, Mosquito and Pratham onto the grass, Alex Albon style. And he does get past the Mavilion. So Nedley Mosquito down, and Shrikant getting another 3 second penalty. So Shrikant, I think, is getting a bit frustrated uh, battling with Spandan. He's on slightly one lap older tire.
Oh,
Yellow
yep, yep.
flag for who is that? Is that Manan? Yes, it is Manan who's going in reverse through the Licom section, but he is still on track. There is no safety car, and he is just ahead of Abhi, who is we've not Mayank and Deadly Mosquito. Mayank on fresh mediums, Deadly Mosquito on the same tire. He started the race on 12 lap old mediums. Yellow flag once again. Who is that? Is that
Pass of
I think
Nishan,
is
I think.
Nishan. Yep.
Yep, yep.
So
I think.
Nishan and Manan, they pitted on the same lap, and they both had misfortunes of few corners apart. So
Meanwhile, Pratham
pretty
and
unfortunate.
makes a move on
SSN
SSN on those fresh tires, and I think Manan and
and
Nishan
SSN
probably came
trying to come
together.
back for more. SSN, he can't make the move and he's run a bit wide there. Why was he trying to go for the inside curbing there? You never take the inside curbing at Blanchimont and SSN. Is he gonna box? He is.
It
I
is.
think that's softs for SSN, no doubt about it. Deadly Mosquito carries on. He is hoping for a safety car. Do you expect another safety car?
Yup, I think when drivers generally tend to push the life out of the tires, that's when mistakes kind of creep in and safety cars can be called in. So probably if I was Deadly Mosquito, yep, I might just wait one more lap before dashing into the pits because then it's all about all you're doing is just losing time. Meanwhile, lot of
Yeah.
sorry there.
And Mayank getting past Deadly Mosquito down the Camel Straight. A very straightforward move with DRS. And Deadly Mosquito has broken two of the polystyrene barriers and is sliding through the Lecom chicane. That I don't exactly understand. I'm pretty sure Mayank left him enough space there. Why did he go onto the grass? I don't understand. Maybe there was slight contact which I didn't see. But yeah, Nishan now getting past Abhi after his spin earlier on. SSN on the fresh softs. What can he do from down in P15? Up ahead, it is still pretty evenly matched between Shooter and Harsh. Shooter trying to regain the battery, Harsh also trying to regain some battery while they are in this latter half of the race. Raman's about 4 seconds behind. I think the gap
Yep,
is changing at a
4.2
very
is the
rapid rate
gap.
between the two of them. Yeah, the gap is changing at a very rapid rate. It's refreshing, and I'm excited to see what Domithor can do. So while we haven't spoken about him for a while, Domithor, he is carrying on. So I don't think he expects the softs to have very good tire life. I think he was on the mediums, right? If I'm not wrong, at the sprint in the sprint before he
Sprint,
retired.
yep. I think he was on the mediums, and probably he can
So I
just go
think
one more lap
yeah,
and go for a set of softs because all
Spandan with
he
the
would
penalty.
he
Yeah,
might just fall down to P10 probably Domathor after his mandatory pit stop.
yeah, I think that is sensible. And Shrikant going very wide there. That is not a corner you want to go wide at. Shrikant deploying battery with DRS, but he can't make the move on Spandan. Both of whom have picked up an additional penalties in these past previous in the last minute, I think it is. Pratham trying to chase after F17, who has, I think, just settled into a bit of a rhythm. He's a bit further back from Spandan and Shrikant, but with the two of them battling, I think Seven could be looking to get close to them and attempt a maneuver on them as well. Pratham, can he make the move? He did set the fastest lap just moments ago. Do you think Pratham has what it takes to get past Seven and stay ahead of him for the rest of the race? And as I say that, he's gonna go for a move
Oh,
at Fania. Why was he going for a move there? He could go for a move approaching Blanchimont, but yeah, approaching campus. Pratham still behind the Merc driver through Stavilo, ending sector 2. He should stay in the slipstream, which he is. I think he's trying to maybe keep his tire temperatures in check. Seven is gaining time, but he is also losing time. He's gaining time to the cars ahead, but he's losing time to Pratham behind him. And Pratham is gonna go for a move at the bus stop. He is not. He's gonna wait for DRS, sensibly so. And Seven, is he gonna get a good exit? I think he is. That's a very good exit for Seven down the main straight, and the gap is about 5 tenths of a second. And we know that Seven has been very strong through Oruge and Radion. And look at them. They are battling like their life depends on it. And Shrikant and Spandan, both of whom have penalties, are really not helping each other out. They're battling each other and they're losing time. And Shrikant is not having a good time. Exit of Radion, 2 laps in a row. He has lost the rear end of his car, and Seven is being chased after by Pratham. Pratham going for the move. Seven, can he defend it? He cannot. He can't use that late braking which he used a few, I think at the race start it was. And Seven is now down and he's got a penalty. So he's down and out, unfortunately, I think. It
meanwhile
was
the
a
gap
hard.
between Raman, oh, and Ashan and Manan also again side by side. Hopefully these guys don't come collect each other
I
this
don't think they
time
will.
around like they did last time. I think they did collect each other probably right at this point in at the track, but this time all's well around with these drivers as
And Manan Manana going a bit wide there. Shrikant very close to Spandan. Pratham very close to Shrikant. And Seven within touching distance of DRS but falling away. So up ahead, the battle for P5 is heated. Shrikant is right on the tail of Spandan. And look at him, he's hugging the rear wing of the McLaren as they're going to bust up chicane. Shrikant is going to hold back easy. No, he's not. He's going to go for a move, attempt a maneuver. And he's in a McLaren sandwich at the moment, but that could change. But the Ferrari filling wants to become the top half of the sandwich. This is a horrible analogy. I'm going to stop it right away. Shrikant trying to go for a move on the outside, but Pratham has the inside line. Can he do anything about it? He cannot
Oh,
because he
and
has spun
Pratham
and he's
loses.
out.
And is that a
And that
safety
could be a
car?
very late safety
Yes.
car. It is.
And perfect timing for Domitor there. That is perfect luck for him. He's on fresh softs out of the pit in P8 and he can either be P2 or can
Mosquito
climb
with a
his way.
penalty.
Drive
Ouch.
through.
Mosquito. I think.
Uh, Meanwhile,
Do we
shooter.
expect people to box?
Yep, if I was the leader, I might think of boxing
If I was
because
shooter, I would box because he's gonna come
yep,
out definitely in guaranteed P3.
yeah, and that's a
There's a
yep, and he'd be serving his 5 seconds as well. There's a good gap to Spandan he has, and that
so
shouldn't.
I think it all lies in the fact for shooter. I think it all lies with the fact that can he get past Raman after his pit stop? If Raman also chooses to stay out, I would expect everybody to box. I don't
Yep,
expect people to stay out. Honestly, I don't expect people to stay out because it's too much of a gamble to stay out on old worn hards versus fresh soft tires.
and that's going to put
And
the
I
other Aston
think
Martin of Domithor right in contention for the race win, Chips. If the
yes,
all the drivers
yes.
ahead of him box, because Mayank is
What is
on
Harsh
old
gonna do?
softs.
Harsh is going to dive into the pits. What does Shooter do? I expect nothing else from Shooter. Shooter's gonna box as well. Raman is gonna follow suit. Spandan a long ways back. So I expect these three to pit as well. Spandan, Shrikant, and Seven. Although I wouldn't put it above one of them trying to take the gamble and staying out. Shooter has just entered the pits. He has a service 5 sec. Pit is box, sorry, and he is gonna get jumped by Raman. But what about Spandan? Spandan, everybody's boxing. Domithor, I think the delta indicator has gone away, so he should be able to push, and which he really needs to because he would come out ahead of Spandan if he times it right. And he's slowing down for the delta, and why
Now
is he
he
doing
can pace
so?
up.
Now he can pace up. So is it limited to when the driver crosses the finish line?
No,
Oh, he's
yeah.
come out ahead of Seven. Manana stayed out on
Ooh,
old soft tires. Sorry,
that was close
Abhi has
between
stayed out.
Srikanth Das and Domathor. So,
Yeah. Unfortunate for Domithor that he couldn't jump Spandan, but he is in a brilliant position from what was last place on the grid. Let us just confirm that by changing the position changes. Yeah. 13 places up and in P6, and we have 19 drivers who started the race. And
oh,
Abhi is out.
Abhi,
What? How? What happened to Abhi? He's been it on the Camel straight, and I think it was
was
very
that
much
weaving his
brushed
tires?
off the line. Maybe he was on the mediums, and I can't see his car, so it's
Yeah.
disappeared. Yeah, thank you, Codemasters. Thank you. The
Oops.
entire field on the softs. And let's have a look at the penalty situation before the restart. So, P4 and P5 have 6 seconds of penalties. That is going to hurt them badly. Domithor, I think we know Domithor. He's had some very good pace throughout this race. I see no other reason as to why he shouldn't be able to stick within 6 seconds of either of them. And I think the way they're battling, maybe Domitor might be able to get them on track. Deadly Mosquito drifting there through Brussels. I'm not sure what he was doing there. But yeah, speaking of Deadly Mosquito, a drive through. I'm pretty sure the race over for him, right?
Yep, drive through. Yep, that is pretty much race over. And I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening with this audio. It's an on and off situation for me
Are you
right
getting the audio
now.
glitch?
Yep, looks like I am.
Yeah, the crackling audio glitch.
Yep, I am.
Yep. I do remember that. It was a very painful start to F1 22 to have that At every league race, you pain
Oh
in the
yeah,
head.
yeah, that was a
Yeah,
big major headache, but hopefully
yeah.
this gets out
So,
very soon. But I don't know. I think I
no, man,
reduced
that's
the volume
too much
just a bit.
effort you're asking for. Have a sofa. Have a sofa. Have a soft furnishing, actually. Soft furnishing. We're being very kind with you. Deadly Mosquito almost running into the back of his teammate there, Abdul Samad. So does you can beat me. So the bus stop chicane is, yeah, it's. I don't understand why the safety car goes that slowly, or maybe why the midfield tries to go that quickly through the bus stop chicane. But let's have a look at the penalties before we forget. So 6 second penalties for Spandan, Shrikant, and Nishan, while we have 3 second penalties apiece for F17 and SSN. So those around them are really going to be hoping to keep their nose clean. The entire field is on the soft tires. We don't need to have the tire graphic open. I think we can have the penalty situation or maybe the position change open. So a very good race for the Domathor. At the moment, 13 places up in P6 from P19. Manan up 2 places, Raman up 2 places, Shooter down 1 position. I think Shooter, what can Shooter do against Raman? I think that's going to be very interesting to see. The Mosquito up 3 places, you can beat me down seven, seven down 2 places in P8. Uh, what can Seven do? Can Seven get back to P7? The driver ahead of him in P7 is Manan. So can Seven reclaim his favorite position? Let's wait and find out. So it's been Domathor, Manan, Nishan, and SSN who have not stopped more than once. I think it is Domathor is the only one who has managed to, yeah, all those behind him, the other ones, it's Nishan and SSN on 5 and 6 lap old softs respectively, and Manan is also on 5 lap old softs, while Domathor is on fresh softs. So it's been the best possible strategy call for Domathor. I think he's really one to look out for come
Yup,
the end of
indeed.
this race.
Yeah, and he just needs to. He knows those two. He can see those two drivers and the penalties up ahead. So he knows he can easily climb those two positions. And and the battle for top three could also get very
Raman.
intense as the up. And you can take us through this safety car restart. I'm going to be on board with Raman.
All
And
right. I am really interested to see where Harsh decides to bolt. And Abhi has left the session. All right. So unfortunate for Abhi, but we do carry on. We will have 3 laps to go. As we cross the line, Harsh is sliding around the track. So I think that's a bit of connection issues. I don't think Raman's really enjoying that. But it's imperative for Harsh that he gets a good restart because this is going to be crucial. He is actually modulating very well. He handled the previous safety car restart very well as well. Can he do something similar on this occasion? As he goes through the bus stop chicane, Raman bogs down on the exit and is going to be under threat from Shooter. Harsh gets a good exit, but not the best. And Shooter into turn one breaks late, trying to go for the move around the outside. And will he make a stick? No, he does not because there's contact between him and Raman. Are
Oh,
they going
and
to
they
go back
take
at
each
it?
other
No, there's
out.
contact. They're both out. Raman is out as well, I believe, and that
no,
is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Spandan and Shrikant up into P2 and P3. Domithor, he could really come in play here because he doesn't have any penalties to his name. He is on fresh tires and he has been showing incredible pace. So unfortunate for Raman and Shooter. They were getting too eager. I was just going to say, are they going to go side by side through the rules? But they did not even get the opportunity to do so. On the old start finish straight, they both took each other out of the race. And Seven and Manan. Seven and Manan and Seven currently in P6 looking for P5. So is he going to go for a move around the outside at Puhon? He is! And Manan runs wide, and Nishan looking to pick up the pieces from this scrap. Manan still staying ahead for the time being. Mala, you can beat me with the penalty. Domithor trying to hit after Shrikant. Can he do anything? I'm really excited to see if he can get P. He can get a podium on merit, which I really think he can. He is not using up too much of his battery as well. I think he's just deploying now. I think Shrikant is deploying as well. So is Spandan. We can see for that from their onboard steering wheels. Nishan trying to chase after Manan. Behind them is Mayank, who once again he doesn't have any penalties. He's going to be very keen to get past, and he is trying to get past the Haas into the bus of chicane. Nishan going for a dive there, and then he makes contact with the rear right wheel of Manan, and the Red Bull of SSN getting out of shape there. Abdul getting up into P9, but he does. Oh, he doesn't have a penalty. That is SSN. SSN going for the switchback into turn one. He can't do anything. Abdul running deep. SSN going for the switchback, but he does not have the superior traction at the exit of turn one. Up ahead though, Shrikant chasing after Spandan, Domitar falling a bit further back. So maybe, I'm sorry, maybe something can happen on the last lap for him. And yeah, I've been on a bit of a monologue. SSN going running very wide there, and he is still on track. You can take over for a bit here. I'll take over in the next final lap.
Yup, interesting couple of laps between these drivers. Everybody is fighting for positions. They can't wait as the Williams of Abdul Samad goes rather deep into that corner, and the Red Bull looks to seize that opportunity, but Abdul Samad says nothing doing as he does his recovery on the track. So intense racing points, last points being position for all these drivers. As SSN, his penalty is also just going to demote him, but not sure what the penalty situation is like for You Can Beat Me, but Ace might just
He has
get
three
those
seconds.
two.
And You Can Beat Me getting brilliant traction around the outside at Puhon, and he makes the move on SSN, and he's up into P10 at the moment, but Ace behind him does not have any penalty, so Ace could steal the final point from these two if they keep squabbling this way, because because Ace is gonna keep up with them. Up ahead, let's have a look at the leaders. Domitar closing up to Shrikant. Are we going to have DRS? I think we are on the very last lap, as I think it's harsh. Yes, DRS is enabled for the last lap, and Spandan is going to be a sitting duck if we don't get a good exit out of turn one and through Radion. What's Domitar going to be able to do? Shrikant into turn one, he gets a nice exit. Domitar a bit further back. I think he
Think
might
he
fall out of DRS range. Yes, he will. But it is crucial for Shrikant. Further back, I see Mayank and Nishan very close. But let's focus on Shrikant for now. He is not going to be able to get past. He is out of battery. So is Pandan. And Domitar has a good chunk of battery on his car battery pack. So why wasn't he using any battery previously? Shrikant can't get past Domitar. What about Nishan and Mayank? Mayank trying to get past Nishan into Likom chicane. Is he going to break late? He is not. And he runs a bit deep into the corner that could lead Abdul to sniff for an opportunity. I don't think he can, but Nishan running so deep through that corner. Nishan making a mistake, and Mayank getting past Abdul, and Shrikant getting a 9-second penalty. So Shrikant is going to be dropped way down the order. He's going to be in the dumps once he crosses the line. Almost.
all that
Sorry, Abdul. Yeah.
yeah, all that track extensions is just going to put him down the order. So not that's not the best of news for him. Hopefully not a lot. Meanwhile, Harsh now in the final sector of the track for one last time around circuit, the Spa Francorchamps, and he has driven a flawless race. Meanwhile, with all the fights behind, Domitor has also
I think
clawed
we should
up
focus on
all
Harsh
that
for a
battery
moment.
saving. Yep, as
For a
he
moment, let's go
navigates.
over to Harsh. Let's give him some screen time, and he is going to take the bus up chicane, hands in the air, and he wins the race. Manan is out. What
Mana,
did Manan do? What
no.
happened to Manan? And Domitor is gonna get P2, Spandan and 7 into the podium places! Wow!
Just
Wow,
keep.
despite this penalty.
Yup, I think he was within those 3 seconds of Spandan, and that eventually got him that final podium position. But definitely looks like at the place where Manan retired, I think there was a bit of contact between those drivers. Whoever was fighting for positions there at that fast left-hander, but that's all speculation, all to go for the stewards. But Harsh has driven a brilliant race. I think a flawless drive from him ever since he made that move on Shooter in the sprint, and he has just maintained his lead and secured his victory. So a brilliant weekend for him.
Indeed, yeah. That really left me all out of breath there. Just having a bit of water to
Yeah, so was
calm
I.
myself down. But that was a hectic final lap. And in the end, I think we might get a bit more of an insight as to what happened to Manan from 7 as we invite him to the podium. And let us run through the race results real quick. So, This is a stark contrast in fortunes. Harsh, from pole position, wins the race and takes the fastest lap. However, look just behind him from 19th on the grid to second at the checkered flag, Domithor. Take a bow. Amazing race for him. Seven, despite his penalties, he kept it on the track at the end and picks up P3. Spandan is P4. Shrikant is P5 after their multiple penalties. Abdul is P6. He gained a good chunk of places.
Oh.
Mayank and Ace make it an Alfa Romeo P7 and P8. You can beat me in the Haas is P9 and SSN. Despite his woes, is P10. Nishan, Deadly Mosquito, Raman, Manan did not Raman did not finish outside the points, and Manan shooter Abhi Pratham, AKQJ Oxidized, did not finish the race at all. Yeah, the timer came a bit too early and we have just lost the timer. So thank you, Codemasters, for making me rush there.
And for a moment, I was
But
wondering why isn't the order the same for me? And then I eventually realized I was looking at the overall weekend summary.
yeah,
But anyway, hopefully everybody is back in the party, right?
I shall be inviting them into the party just now. So that is going to be Domithor, F17, and Harsh, if I'm not wrong, right? Yeah,
Yep.
yep. Three of them should join very soon. I must say that has to be one of the better races I've commentated on. And if you remember, the last time we did comms together at Spa was season 8, and that was also a very, very, very entertaining race.
Yep. I think Spa is marked for our commentary then, in that case, because that's called for a lot of viewer entertainment.
Certainly. And we have Seven and Domithor with us in the chat. So I think we can start with Suraj while we wait for Harsh to join. I hope Harsh joins. Uh, can you just make sure? Yeah, sorry. I will help you with that. No worries, no worries. If somebody in chat can please let us know if they can hear Suraj, I shall do the same. And Harsh has joined as well. Let me just very quickly do. So Suraj, please say something while I try to get your audio.
Yeah, Chips, I really like your commentary. I really like your comms,
Yes.
to be frank. Yep.
Thank you, thank you, thank you indeed. So Suraj, if you could just increase your mic volume by a tad bit, that would be good. Yeah, I think that should be fine. So so Suraj, P3 at the end. A brilliant, brilliant drive by you. You made some outrageously beautiful moves. I loved watching you race. You did pick up a penalty, but in the end, you did keep it on track and you finished P3. Just walk us through your race. Yes. So, just one question for you. If you could just let us know, did something happen to? Did you catch what happened to Manan in the last lap there? Oh, you were ahead. Yeah. Right, right, right. Yeah. It was Nishan who was with him. Sorry, my apologies there. But nonetheless, you can be very, very proud of that result. That was, I think, your first podium in quite a while, right? I think. Yes, and what a what a position to finish it in. P3. Welcome back to the podium, Suraj. Gaurav, anything you would like to ask him?
Well, nothing's raced well summarized. I think all assists off and even the racing line. So that's and finishing PT. I think that's been useful. It's been usual for you without the racing line. But anyway, great result, great comeback. So more podiums to come hopefully for the rest of the season. So congratulations, Suraj. Oh yeah, the
Just
race
do watch the
was
commentary.
highly entertaining.
Do watch the stream.
Yeah.
Do watch the stream. Yes, I shall do my best. Now we move over to Domithor. So before we start Domithor, just is your audio sharing enabled?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So I should just do a very quick check of that. Uh, just say something again, please.
Yeah. Is it all audible? Okay. I think I'm just make sure it is on.
Yes, you are very much audible, Domithor.
Okay.
I think you are a man in demand at this moment, Domithor.
Thank you.
19th to second. You have
Thank
driven
you.
a spectacular and outstanding race, no penalties. It was a bit of an unfortunate end to the sprint there, but even in the sprint, you were looking so feisty, so quick. Just walk us through your race.
Yeah. Thank you, Tips. So first of all, congrats to Harsh for finishing on the top step, and congrats to Suraj on finishing third. Yeah, I really don't have words to describe what happened there actually. I think I got unlucky with the last race also. Hungaroring, my pace was pretty good. Not very much, like shooter's pace, but yeah, it was a bit competitive. Yeah, sad to really miss out that actually Hungaroring being one of my favorite tracks this year. And coming to the today's race, I want to forget about my sprint race. I don't know what happened actually. I had issues with my wheel, so it was double shifting every time. So probably that would have caused, that spin. So I was a bit eager on the throttle as well. So yeah, but race, yeah, I just wanted to make sure the first spin to goes clean, and my decision was solely on doing the first spin on hard tires. So going as long as possible. I was actually targeting around 17th lap to pit, but yeah, it was it was a blessing in disguise. The lap I pit in for the soft tires, the same time the safety car came in. So I think that's best that could have happened to anybody. Yeah, at the
Yeah,
end, yeah, I'm happy to take this podium.
definitely. I think maybe this is the first time I'm speaking to you on the podium, or have you finished on
I
the
think
podium
it's
before? I can't
a
recollect.
second. In
Second podium, right?
yeah, last season Baku I got.
All right.
Yeah, after that, I think I spoke to Caesar, I guess, for the last
Yeah,
year's
I
Baku
was.
race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was. Codemasters was very kind to gift me an NP2 error every time I tried to join for the Baku race, or he would have spoken to me before. But yeah,
Yes.
brilliant, brilliant, Damata. Just one question before I go over to let you give it, Gaurav. Uh,
Yes.
you were not using too much battery at the end there. I won't disclose the values here, but you were a bit conservative with the battery. Those ahead of you were deploying and they had finished all the battery as they went down the Camel Straight on the last lap. You still had a fair bit of battery. Is there any reason you
I
weren't like deploying it with that much tenacity?
um, my first preference was to stay ahead from Suraj, and just to make sure he's not in a DRS. So that was my first preference to finish the last lap. And looking at the drivers ahead, I already saw them having 6 seconds of penalty. So thought like why to take simple uninvited risks. So yeah, I kind of very what preservative on the ERS side. I want to preserve some ERS on back and use it when it is necessary. I think on all the overtakes I did, I think I used quite a bit of ERS. So just just testing myself out to have some raw good face. Yeah.
Well,
Well, indeed, better
I think
safe than
that was
sorry,
very
and
smart. Yeah.
yep, and I think uh, definitely the driver of the day for me. So great race there, Domitor, just keeping your nose clean and clock, getting all your way up from the back of the field. So brilliant drive. Congratulations on that podium.
Thanks, mate. Yes. Thank you.
Very well done. And lastly, we move over to Harsh. Are you here with us,
Yes,
Harsh?
yes,
And
I'm
is
here.
your audio sharing enabled? I should just check that real quick.
I think so, yeah, it is enabled.
Yes, your audio is loud and clear. So, Harsh, after taking the lead in the sprint race, you did not look back even once. I think the only time you relinquished the lead was when you made your pit stop. And that was P2. I think you fell to P2, just behind Raman. You absolutely dominated this entire weekend. Just walk us through how your race went and the preparation that went into it.
So, first of all, congratulations to Suraj and Domitor. Domitor, I don't know how you did that, starting from last till ending on podium. Mega drive from you. So, for the weekend prep, it was me and Shooter mainly sweating in practice sessions. Felt really bad for Shooter there at the end. I don't know what happened with him and Raman, but yeah, he didn't deserve it. He had really good pace. So yeah, also maximized my weekend. Got 8 points in sprints. Got the fastest lap. Got the win. So yeah, overall clean race, no penalties. hmm
Yeah, that was a pretty mighty effort from you all weekend and just a brilliant race by you. I think you can be very proud of it. This has to be one of your best drives in IRL. Yeah,
For sure.
I'm pretty sure you would looking to keep it up. And you had a good battle with Shooter. You and Shooter were very evenly matched. I think now that you pointed out, that's the reason why you two were so evenly matched. You were a bit ahead of Shooter for most of the weekend, but you were both were pretty
Yeah,
evenly
so
matched. Your
I got lucky with the safety car restart, the first restart. I got a really good bolt. Shooter was not able to catch up with that. So that's the reason there was a gap. Otherwise, he would have definitely overtaken me with the DRS.
yeah. Anyways, congratulations to you, Gaurav. Anything you'd like to ask Harsh?
And nothing but full 10 on 10. I think brilliant driving, full maximizing your race weekend, getting the most of the points. So a good championship is pretty much poised for you for the rest of the season. So good luck and congratulations once again, Harsh. Great drive.
Thank you, boys.
Yes.
Yeah. Congrats to you too, bro.
All right, so we pretty much come to the end of the race weekend until tomorrow for the Division 1 race. So Chips, thanks for joining as always. It was
And
pleasure
I
always
would like
commentating with
to
you.
Yes, and you too. It's been quite a while since we've done comms together. I think maybe it was season 8 the last time we did comms together. But I would like my closing remarks to be that I think the D1 race is really going to be one to look out for tomorrow. If we are to see something similar to what we've seen today, that would just be cherry on the cake. And I'd like to end the stream in the same language that I started the stream by saying arigato gozaimasu everyone for tuning in to this race. And thank you, Gaurav. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. And see you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye
Cheers.
bye.
Have
Good
a good
night.
weekend tomorrow.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Good luck to you
Yes.
guys tomorrow for day one.
Thank you. Thank you.